Yeah. Wait, well, are we starting?
Yep.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're ready. We're late.
Fashionably so.
Ever on time?
Yeah.
Are we ever on time? Or some of us ever on time?
Oh,
not
thank you.
You are never on time.
No.
So we are on time.
Yes.
Okay, first everybody has to tell everybody who they are.
Okay.
Ladies first.
So, okay. I'm JP Roth. I'm an author, a novelist. I'm owner of Roth Comics and co-creator of Divinica. I work on Divinica with Dawn. I've been in comics for 9 million years. And yeah, it's really a wild ride. And that's me. I also have 5 published novels and another novel coming out in the fall with Tantor Media, which is the Divinica, which I work on with Dawn, which I'm super excited. Thank you, Rob.
You were not 9 million.
Hi, I'm Dawn McTeigue. I'm a comic book artist. I do covers for lots of different companies in comics, and then I do the interiors traditionally, so it's all painted for Divinica. That's written by JP Roth.
Hey, I'm Mike. I'm a full-time artist, full-time Australian, and I work as a cover artist and do the interiors for Joe's book, Ancient Dreams.
Mike's amazing, and he barely made it here, you guys. So, like, big round of applause for Mike even making it here.
If you don't know, his last name is Krome.
Yes,
He
we
doesn't
almost
go
didn't
just
have
fine.
him.
My name's Kincaid. I'm a publisher, writer, cover artist. I've done interior artist for just about everything but Marvel, DC, Image, Boom, Dynamite, you name it, except for yours.
Me?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Dang it, there's kids. Dang it.
Sorry, dang it.
Yeah.
Beep. Yay!
How long have you all been working in the industry?
I started yesterday.
You got a lot done.
Fast, dude, I'm fast.
He is legitimately fast, though.
I started like 16, 17 years ago. But it's one of those, I don't know about them. For me, it was, I still work, so I kind of dabbled here and there. I did a job here, I did a job there. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I moved out to Kansas City that I went full time. It was like, okay, I'm either gonna draw or I'm gonna starve.
That's usually the choice, by the way, draw or
There's no
starve.
in between, draw a lot,
Yeah,
or starve.
to do or die.
Mm-hmm. I've been in the industry for 14 years, started working with her, and have been working with her since, and then, add on a few other people here and there.
Tell us some of the companies you've worked for, young lady.
I did some interiors for Harley and her gang of Harleys as a penciler. I've done some interiors for Zenoscope. I've done cover art for Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse and Dynamite, Coffin Comics, Lady Death, Roth.
Yeah, they own the pot.
I've been writing for 23 years professionally, and I have worked for everybody. And I have been in the comic industry for 14 years.
Yeah, about 14 years for me as well. And actually, the 3 of us all kind of got into comics together at the same time. We started with our own series and then kind of slowly abandoned each other as we went.
It wasn't slowly either, like companies were immediately trying to work with them, so.
All of you.
Now people just scout the artists that I pick for my company and they use them themselves. That's just the thing, you guys. Yeah.
All of you that.
We all started together. Sabine Rich too, she's an amazing French artist. She does a lot of colors. in the industry, does beautiful work with J. Scott Campbell and Zenoscope and Lady Death
Frank
and
Cho.
Marvel and Frank Cho, and she's amazing. She also started with us.
I think that's the question I've always had. How did you guys all grow up together and end up in the same industry together?
It's a very long story and not appropriate for
No,
this
I
panel.
know that part.
Read the
But
media.
It's amazing to me. Like, I grew up with the same friends I've had since I was 5. And not one of us does the same thing. In fact, my friends think I'm weird for what I do, but it's fun. But I'm like, all of you guys ended up doing the same thing. I'm like, to me, that's rad.
Well, they were my friend. Like I knew Mike, and he was an amazing artist. So, but first I asked her. She almost married my brother like 30 years ago. We're really happy she did not, but she almost did. And I asked her if she wanted to draw with me. She was like, no, I don't know how to draw. I'm like not gonna do that anymore. That was like her answer, no, guys. And then I had actually done the comic as a film script, but then someone had told me to go into comics. I had no idea what I was doing, less than an idea actually. I printed our first comic book at Copy for Less, so there you go. It was so bad. We didn't know what we were doing. We drew on A4 paper. It was hilarious. And we really didn't know much about Comic-Cons or anything. I was really learning from her because she had done a bit of scout work at the time. We did the first Ancient Dreams comic. Mike did the interiors with Dawn and Sabine, and it was so amazing. We've also worked with the same designer and letterer. He's just German and he never comes to shows and stuff, but it's pretty much been our core team since the beginning. And yeah.
And now we're here.
Yeah. Ancient Dreams was really popular because they're amazing. So it would have been, like the artwork was always really good. These guys really knew what they were doing already coming on. Mike was you were working in art before comics. You were just doing other stuff.
Yeah, I was doing a very boring job for a commercial company that makes TV commercials. So the way that they, at least used to do it, is they need a storyboard artist to literally draw out the entire commercial, which is as soul crushing as it sounds. But it was good practice for being a comic artist because you have to like do tons of like real quick little panels and stuff like that. So that's why when I jumped onto this comic idea that she had, I was already kind of trained for it, and except it was just so much more fun. And thankfully, I've never had to go back to that.
Yay!
Yay. We have a question.
What made you decide to do comics instead of zines or comics?
Yeah, it's a long story, but like my sister worked with Thomas Tall, who set up Legendary Pictures. She helped him set it up. And he's a huge comic book nerd, like massive. They were doing The Hangover and 300 at the time, and I was doing some really ghost writing style scripting, like money, no credit kind of thing. Hungry artist, back to the whole starving or die thing. But yeah, I was gonna sell him Ancient Dreams as a film script. And he was like, this has to be a comic series, like some of the best things in TV and movies, they start with comics. Like comics is the blood that pulses through the media right now. So go make a comic series. Like, do you know any artists? And I was like, I do know some artists, actually. I used to trace her work when I was a little girl. Like, she's amazing. So yeah, that's how.
So I'm gonna say that's a good start to the creating comics.
Yeah, let's start from there.
So the idea comes across one of our heads, and you start with writing.
Yeah, or you can start with writing. You can also start with images. Like a lot
I
of
did it backwards.
you did it because it's a good way to do it.
I did it panel by panel and was writing the story as I was drawing because I didn't figure out how to do the correct way, which I do now.
Yeah.
I did it the Frank Cho way of like, this would be cool, how can I draw this into this comic?
Yeah.
And how do I build a story around one scene and build it out? I don't do that anymore because that was hard.
Yeah.
Now,
But that just goes to show that there's no right way and wrong way, you know, like some people do format their comic in different ways than other people do. In our case, we start with a script. She had a novel, so that made it very easy to like work through that in that direction.
It's also what made our books like weird and original and different. Like back to saying like we did not know what we were doing. We didn't even know like how to really script the comic, so we did it quite differently because it was built off of novels. That's not always the case at all, and does not have to be the case.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm losing my voice.
Mike also needs to draw his own comic. Like he also wants to do that at some point. How do you do it? Do you think of the story first or the images?
Well, I've very successfully not done it yet. So.
You're on track with the rest of us. You're on track with the, I have an idea, but I don't know if I'm gonna do anything with it.
Yeah, well, so far I've been lucky just to be given pretty good, very well mapped out scripts from writers like Joe. And most of them are very good at like planning out the pages for you. So our job is actually quite simple. They'll set the scene, we just draw it, and yeah, we don't have to do much thinking, thankfully.
I don't agree with that at all. I object to that.
No, I like those ones because I've worked on interiors where they write it like almost novel-like. Like page 1 and all this stuff happens and you're like, okay, but what was here's the scene, but what's the panels? Like, what do you want?
That's what I love. Yeah, like I love to give Mike, Mike in particular, you'll just give him like a big script or a big chunk of something and then he'll just draw like kind of what came to him
Like,
after reading
I
it.
figured 4 panels, Mike did 17, but that
Yeah,
works.
that's right. Dawn too. Dawn's very meticulous in her planning. She starts with very scary drawings.
Oh yes, they're terrifying. They're very bad. Very bad.
They're really good actually.
We actually have, it will be coming out soon, we have like a trade paperback that's just all of the like layouts and stick figures, and so everybody can hopefully have a good laugh with me on how atrocious they are. But yeah, I think, you know, when you've got the script already, then, you know, it's just a matter of mapping it out and what space do you want to give that particular scene. You know, that scene may need a lot of room to get it across, or you really don't. And, you know, then it's how do all the scenes fit together like a puzzle to make it a story that makes you want to flip the page to the next one and things like that. And, you know, there are rules for a lot of that stuff and you can find them all over the place. But I think the main thing when starting out is you will be able to find a million different rules of this is how you're supposed to do it. You can buy books on telling you how you're supposed to do it, but at the end of the day, it's gotta be something that you can stand working on, and it's gotta work for you. So know the rules and then break the rules in a way that works for you, because honestly, the places where you break the rules are the things that actually make your style. You know, style is just being wrong consistently enough that it becomes your style. Like I draw eyes completely wrong. They are not anatomically correct at all. But I've been doing it wrong for long enough that people recognize my art through my eyes that are technically wrong, you know?
And
so,
super pretty also.
Well, I have a really hard time getting you to look in the right place. So like, you know, I draw the pupils at the very end because I'm like, oh my God, where the hell do they go? You know, I'll end up with this going on all the time, you know? So it's actually hard. But yeah, there's so many things. So like, if you are planning out your comic or you are working on it, you will find a million rules and a million people telling you on their, you know, they're standing on their soapbox and telling you exactly how you should do it and how you shouldn't do it. But that's what worked for them. That may not work for you. So don't take it too hard and fast on any of them. At least that's just my opinion.
Yes.
So in each of you guys' opinion, what makes an interesting looking storyboard before it's finished? What page layout would be interesting versus which one would be boring?
I mean, it's a matter of taste, really. Like, there's a lot of very interesting comics that have just a very boring sort of box by box style, and then there's really dynamic ones. Thank you.
No one can hear you.
I'm losing my voice, I told you. There's like the big splash page type scenes where you've got a character bursting out of a panel. So it's just a mix of those. Conversation works very well in more sort of boring, box by box type things. And if you're having like a jump scare page or some kind of like intense action take place, that's when you go with like a big image, something to just grab attention. But yeah, it's also a matter of taste. Like some people like super lively pages with characters all over the place. Some people just like it panel by panel. So yeah, it really is the story and the art. It's the way you do the panels doesn't affect it as much.
I think you can also look at pages really emotionally. Like, what emotion are you trying to relay? It's a really nice thing about, like, in writing, you have this, like, end of chapter tra-la-la, right? At the end of every chapter, you can leave, like, a cliffhanger, or you can do something. And almost if people are reading your book, or you have a fan base, they're kind of expecting you to do it, right? You know it with certain authors. You're like, oh my God, they're gonna do that. In writing and in comics, you can do that too. Like, there's a lot of ways to relay emotion in the page. So like Mike was saying, if it's a big dramatic page and that's the emotion you're trying to relay, then your panels can kind of reflect that. And if it's something pensive, like there are ways that you can actually even just relay the emotion in art. And I'm not always a big fan of panels. Like, you can also play with that page. You don't have to think of it as a flat, you can think of the page as a cube. You can think of it as going into the page. How are you gonna dynamically work with the structure of that page that you have? Like, it doesn't always have to be boxed in. Sometimes the best pages, in my opinion, are kind of breaking out of that.
I'll agree on that.
Yeah.
I like Mike said, it's kind of subjective, but if you look at, say, Humberto Ramos and how he does his Spider-Man pages, those panels look crazy.
They're amazing,
they're out, they're not straight boxes all the time. You got Spider-Man's hand flying out, but then look back at like Mike Mignola, and all of his are just boxes. Kind of the same view on everything, but it's a very, I'm trying to think of the word that he used.
Still quite dynamic, though.
Yeah.
But it's contained.
Yeah, that's the word. It's all contained and it's very storyboard movie-like, but it works for Mike Mignola's style with Hellboy and all that kind of thing. That would work for Amazing Spider-Man. So part of it is like, what are you working on? And like they said, what emotion are you trying to do? Is it dark? Is it dynamic? Is it action-packed? Is it loving? Is it this? It's that. So everything's going to change depending on what you're working on and what you're trying to accomplish.
I just want to say, this is the coolest panel. These two are way cute in the corner, just being so adorable and hugging. Batman is just in the corner, just being all dark and sinister. Everyone's smiling over here. It's just really cute. Sorry, the end. Everybody really committed to their costumes at this show. Oh yes, also, who can forget, right there, just in white, and mirroring Batman. I know, it's super good, you guys. I'm gonna get a photo before the end, sorry. Sorry, does anybody else have a question? Oh, please.
So when you're writing it in script form and everything, how do you know how long to make your story? Because I've been writing myself things and it's about 10 pages. I'm like, is this going to be enough or it's going to be too much?
So your average comic is 22 pages with 2 pages of ads. So, I mean, most stuff you're going to do 20 to 22 pages. I don't follow the rules. I keep going until I'm like, this is a good breaking point. So some of my books are 30 pages. I'm like, that's where it should end. But I'm going to say at least 20. Because everything's in 4s.
And then, how much script goes into that book? I care about words, right? So I'll do a word count for each comic. The smallest, but I also, that's part of it for me, is I want to annoy everybody with as much story as possible. So oh my God, that's more where I'm at. I see a lot of really good comics that maybe will have something somewhere between 1,200 and 2,200 words, and then I'll do a book, I try to cap out at around 3,500 words because I really do only have the 22 pages, 23 if I'm pushing it. But yeah, I mean, it really depends. I think there's a real art or storycraft to the text as well. I think the text can be part of the art in a way, especially how you tell the story. So like the artist can just draw one scene, kind of like how a book is written, right? But then everything else that's happening can also be done in the text, so a ton of focus can be paid to that scene. So I do try to use my text like that, but I know that's not traditional, and I know a lot of comic book people would not necessarily agree with that, you know, because it just really varies. I think if you're talking about actually like words per book. With one of my Divinica books, I went totally over the top. So like, you know, I try to keep it down, but it depends. And it also depends on what you're trying to say. And like, can it all be said in the art? Do you need all of that script? Because sometimes you don't. For my ISIS one, Dawn's work was just so pretty, I didn't even need all that script. Like enough was happening in the art. So it also depends on that. I would say the strength of the artist you're working with heavily weighs on the amount of words you need, at least for someone like me. And Mike too, but that's Ancient Dreams, and that's often novels, so he has to work with like way too much script. Way too much script. I have to try not to cover the art, like, oh my God. So it depends. Yes?
Okay, speaking of artists, if you weren't lucky enough to know one personally, how would you find an artist for a comic?
Ooh, see,
Pray.
yeah. So it depends on what you're looking for. So I'm gonna say it's easier to find somebody that's gonna do a cover than somebody that's gonna draw the book. At this point, I've been doing it for a long time, and I have a hard time finding somebody that's open because they have to commit a long period of time to do one book. Mainstream industries, what, they give you 6 weeks? What did you have to do? What did you do?
Me?
For DC?
Oh, hers was so bad.
10 days for 5 pages.
So 10 days for 5 pages. In a normal book, I think it's like 6 weeks for the 20.
They gave Sabine like, I can't even, it was like 60 pages for like less than a month. Like she was pedal to the metal.
When most of the industry, like your big Marvel, your DC, your Image, all those guys, they have a deadline for book completed. That's all they know. Here's the release of this book, no matter what, release of this book. So the writer has this amount of time, the penciler has this amount of time. If there's an inker, he's got this amount of time. Now the colorist, now the letterer, and the editor. So your whole start is, please God, let the writer not be late. Because now you don't get extra time if he's late. You're just eating up the next
Everybody's
person's
just getting
time.
Everybody's time just gets pushed forward.
And then the colorist dies.
The colorist gets the brunt end of.
And that's why there are no colorists left in the industry.
So to get those people, it's a little harder to find now guys that are going to take on comic interiors. Now, if you can find one that's good enough to do it, man, you better just keep writing scripts and keep them under your belt. I do a series called Con Artists, which I make fun of everything convention-wise. Everything.
It's amazing.
Including myself and my friends. Our names are in it, I'm in it, I get yelled at by my wife, my friends are all in it, it's fun. But I have the same team from issue 2 when I found them to issue 8, because as soon as they're done drawing one, I'm like, here's the next. Go, because I don't wanna lose that group of people. Not only that, but it keeps the book looking the same. Instead of now I'm gonna have to try and find another team to draw, color, and whatever. So if you find one and you like them, just keep it running.
It's a tough industry, people. Yes.
So, how do you guys go about deciding on composition from panel to panel to keep the story flowing in a nice, smooth, like read for all readers? What informs you? Are you guys using specific styles or anything like that of composition? What's going on when you guys actually lay out?
So there's always, like Don was saying, there's always the rules that you do. Certain panels, we're gonna go by the rules we're taught. If you're starting at the top left, which you always do, they're not supposed to be looking to the spine, they're supposed to be looking to the edge. Your eyes are supposed to be drawn in an S way that you keep going. I don't think I've ever followed many of those rules. You kind of go with the rule of thirds on panels and this and that, and you make it work. You'll get some stuff that I've turned in and it's gone completely through the radar and looks fine, and I'll have an editor say like, switch this panel around. Some rules work, some you just kind of do your own thing as long as it flows, as long as you're getting the point across that this panel made sense of going to this panel.
Yeah, one thing I find that helps is just to imagine what you're drawing like as a movie, because movies do it better than anybody. You're being taken from scene to scene in a very interesting way, different kinds of shots. So if you do watch a lot of movies, you get kind of a good idea of how to tell a visual story the way they do it. And then, so what I'll do with the page is I'll just basically imagine if I was watching a movie of that page, like how would they show this shot, and you have like maybe if it's like a particular place, you have like a zoomed out thing, and then if you want to show a pensive shot, maybe like a close up of an eye or a mouth talking or something like that. And you just basically run the movie out in your head and draw what you picture that way. And yeah, that's one of the easiest ways I've found for doing it.
Oh, that makes sense. I've heard that from a lot of like Capullo told me that back in the day, like watch a movie, see how they do it. Now try and do the same thing in a book.
There is some things that really do help lead the eye. So like you do want to do that with the script as well. That's quite important, I think. And I don't know if, maybe I'm just very picky about it, but I don't know if that's really a rule you should break. Like text boxes kind of need to follow in a way that you read it, right? Like you can't have someone talking over here, which is higher up, and you have to make sure it makes sense. So there is kind of a structure in that even if your panels are wild, or you're having a lot of fun with them breaking out, or the emotion, or all those design elements, or if you're boxing them all in, there still is a pathway that the text needs to follow, so that it can be read without confusion. And I will say that I've really learned that the hard way over the years through very angry reviewers who have more than put me in my place. If ever it is out of sync, like I have been told with red circles and X's, so people will let you know if you do make a mistake. There is definitely a path to be followed. Don't think like, I don't know if with texting you can be like, ooh, it would be super fun to put this over here. That's not really how you do it. You kind of need to do it as it's read. And there are people in the industry who do texting on comic pages who are absolute artists themselves, who have a very good knowledge of how that works. And I don't think it's really something you can wing. So the art does need to follow that in a way, and that kind of takes you through the pages. Okay, first there was a question back here, then her in the back, then you. So first back here.
JP's got this.
So,
You.
creating a comic book is an incredibly collaborative process between writer and artist. What happens when you're not on the same page, or disagree, or the artist...
Fired.
You tried.
You are the weakest link. No.
I think it depends on the publisher you're working with.
Yeah, I've had a lot of, like I said, I write con artists. I have a team that draws it. I've worked on, it's kind of a funny series. It's called Stabbity Bunny. It's really weird if you know what I actually am known for drawing, and then started drawing this little inanimated rabbit that causes havoc in fairy tale land. When I write something, I'll have the artist email me and be like, hey, I think this would make more sense and look cooler if I did this. My reaction is always, go for it.
Cool.
Yep, and same thing when I worked on this Stabbity Bunny. Check it out, it's weird, but it's fun. I did the same thing. He'd send me a script, I'm like, okay, this is cool, like he's about to go after the Cheshire Cat. Like, this is gonna be a splash page because everyone wants to see this Cheshire Cat that's 9 stories tall, not in one little box. And his answer was, cool, go for it. So I haven't had the opposite of no, we want it this way. but I'm sure that's.
I've had a tough time with some artists. I've paid for some serious art that I've never used. Not with her, not with anybody up here.
That's why she won't hire me.
I have paid for art that I haven't been able to use. I have bumped heads with someone. I have worked with people who have thought definitely that they knew better. And despite the numerous suggestions, first kindly, then, oh my God, what about this? Are you not understanding? And then having to be like, okay, well, you know, I've had it too. I try to pay the artist anyway for their time, but definitely it's a financial loss because I'm not going to publish something if it looks ewy, like, ew.
She said ewy. It's the most G-rated scene I've ever say.
Some, you know, art is very subjective, but if you're working with a publisher, especially nowadays that a lot of people have their own series or their own kind of particular publishers definitely have a look and a style they're going for. Some publishers will let you play with it, but others have a certain, I'm not going to say standard because art really is subjective and what one person doesn't like, someone else might like, but some publishers do have tastes or umbrellas of tastes, and I think if you bash heads with your publisher over something like that, you know, don't be weird.
So basically it's either okay or we start from scratch.
No, I really always want the artists who work with me to do whatever they want and do all they want. But if I'm like, hey, like your shoulder is super weird and why does your elbow look like a knee? Like also, you know, sometimes I get really wild color. Like why does it look like there's a spaceship landing on her nose? Like sometimes they experiment with whatever they're going through and they put it on the page and sometimes it really works, but sometimes not so much. So, I don't know. I try to say something, now not anymore. I never say anything to them. They just do whatever they want because they're awesome. Most of the time, she'll draw something.
Unsolicited antlers.
She'll draw something and then it ends up in one of my stories. So now like a lot of girls have random crowns and antlers and stuff in my books because Dawn draws them and then I have to write them into the stories. So sometimes I love when the artists do stuff. I think it's amazing. Whatever it inspired them, I don't know. Okay.
There was the guy in the white coat over there.
Well, wait. First her back there.
Okay.
You might have to stand up because like you're far away.
Yeah, I get it. So when you guys are doing storyboards, do you usually do one round? Like, I'm sorry, I'm pretty new to this. Like, is it like one round, or do you do like a couple rounds where it's just total crap, and then eventually kind of sharpens up?
Mike, you start with that.
I mean, you usually get it right the first time because, like I said, you're playing it out in your head. It's probably different in every project, but when you know what you want and you're doing a really rough sort of layout for it, you can usually get it right the first time. Again, it's an editing thing sometimes. Maybe they want to change a panel or have a more exciting page or have less boxes in it. So the editor might switch it up. But personally, yeah, it's usually the first time around.
So yeah, most of any time I've ever done it, it's 98% of it is fine to go. After the first time, they may have you change like a panel or two, that they had a different angle in mind, like maybe I did a bird's eye view and they were looking at like a worm's eye view, but it'll be a change here and there, but most of the time is once you get your rough layouts out, they're like, okay, yeah, those look good to go.
It takes us like 100 times. We talk about it for hours, we think about it, we sleep on it, we change it, and then we go back to what we had, and then we forget why the other one was so good, and we changed it in the first place, and then we talk about it more.
Yeah.
That's
Or we
all
change
indecisive.
what's happening.
No!
We change what's happening. Like we completely redid a book. Like that whole book went away and we kept maybe 1 or 2 panels and 1 or 2 pages, and then the other 20 were gone. And they will never be seen because the story went in a completely different direction. But things like that do happen. I've definitely had entire pages scrapped, not by you, but other people.
Also maybe me.
I've had entire pages scrapped and I've been told go back to the drawing board. So I guess it really depends. I wouldn't say that storytelling is my strong suit. So, you know, and that's clear as day. If the guys get it the first time and I had to redo an entire book, you know, so it happens.
That she didn't have to redo it.
Perfectionist?
No, we give each other ideas. We've been working together for so long. It depends on who you're working with as well. And then we come up with other ideas and better ideas, and then we change things. So there's an evolution process to it as well.
And for us, when I'm working for someone else and doing interiors, I do the layouts and I submit it, right? But then with Joe, we're using Skype now, it's gonna be going away, boo. But I will share my screen and I'll draw it on the computer. My hand-to-eye is really bad on the computer, but at least, you know, we can get boxes and stick figures and stuff. So
She does really beautiful stick
we will
figures.
be dynamically laying it out together. And so it just really depends. Thank you. It really depends who you're working on and what you're working on, but there's certainly nothing wrong with needing to do it multiple times. I mean, at the end of the day, the final product is what matters, so.
Okay, white coat, yes, we can do a few more, okay, go.
How do you find your publishers and your audience? How do you find those?
Self-published, yeah. You do it on
Me?
yourself, yeah.
So you just
Yeah.
go through?
Mine was on accident. I didn't try to do anything. I didn't know what I was doing, again. The audience, we just did shows. So the audience was amazing. And finding you guys, that if you have a good product and you don't suck, that will come. Like the audience will come to you. I never did look for a publisher, because back when I was doing it, everybody wanted IP and they wanted, it was a whole thing. I'm with the Blaze Publishing now, they do my trades. I'm with Metamorphosis Literary Agency, I'm with City Owl Press and Tantor Media, so like now I have a bunch. I did go through Diamond and through previews for a while, but that was a massive headache. I never did go with a publisher, but there are many ways to do it. You can query, you can solicit, you can make your book, but there's so much to be said for indie comics now, and I'm not bashing any of the big, however many there are now. There's so many amazing series, yeah. I don't even know anymore. But any of the traditional publishers, I'm not bringing any of that down, but I think there's a huge flex on the floor nowadays for indie work. People love it, everybody's imaginations are very wild, and I think people really do love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take like 2 more questions, right? Because I think soon we must leave you all. We're gonna
We've
get
got a bunch.
10 minutes?
That's
Okay. We have back here first in black.
I just wanted to ask real fast, is there like a production asset that you consider like most useful for your comic, like character sheets, environment tests?
Ooh.
That's a really good
Honestly,
question.
For me, character sheets is good because a lot of times we don't get those, and I'm guilty of not providing those until asked. But if you've never worked on certain characters and you don't know what their current look is, and you try and do based off what you see out there, how many times do you see a comic book and you know what the back of, we'll say, Nightcrawler looks like? Or Magic from X-Men, I don't know what the backs of any of those guys look like. So if you have a weird shot and you gotta look to the back, you're going through comic books like, nope, not in that one, not in that one.
Yeah.
So character sheets is a good model to have. I have it now on most of my characters, but yeah.
And just the publisher, the editor, the writer, whoever, knowing what they want and having a really good idea themselves of what they're trying to show in the story. Character sheets are great, but like, just if the whole universe is already in their head and they've got it, like a lot of people have like these passion projects that they want to do, they're excited about, but they haven't really thought much of it through, and they also kind of subtly want you to do all the design for them and stuff, which isn't really what we're getting paid to do. You're supposed to design the things first and then you draw them. So they'll just be like, it's a sci-fi setting and do this, and maybe sort of invent some cool spaceships for that, and then if you could maybe put them in this kind of costume, and we're like, that's not what we do. We can do that, but that's the whole design aspect should come first. So yeah, as an artist, we definitely appreciate it when it's been thought out, when you know what the characters look like, you know what the world looks like, and then we can just take it from there.
If I didn't fully answer your publisher question as well, you can also portfolio and query people on the floor. A lot of places do take it, and they will definitely take a percentage of your money for sure, but a lot off your head and headache. There are lots of ways to do it. You can even just like if you go online, you can find different publishing houses like Image, even Dynamite, Ablaze. They'll take submissions and stuff like that. Okay, there. Yes, and then here.
Whenever it comes to illustration and writing, how do you find balance between too much and too little? Like, is this too much dialogue or too little, or with the details on illustration, is it too many details or too few?
You gotta find a really honest person who's not afraid to tell you crap.
I can't do the right, mine don't have as much words as JP does. Mine's very simple. I just make fun of stuff. So you don't have to have a whole lot of dialogue on why that guy just got pants walking down
You
the
don't.
alley. I mean, I have one panel that makes fun of like deodorant, and you don't need a lot of words for that. So I can't really go on that side, but as an illustrator, it depends on who you are. I've been taught by a lot of guys. Ryan Otley with Invincible used to tell me all the time, keep it simple. If you're doing this panel and you don't really have to see if it's, Mark is throwing a ball. I'll draw Mark getting ready to throw the ball. He's like, all you needed was the ball in his hand and in this motion. So instead of drawing the entire figure, all you needed was a hand on that panel. So you kind of just, what can you get away with that clearly shows what you and that panel said, and not overthinking it. I used to think I had to draw the whole body in every panel when I first started, and now I'm like, oh, it's cars driving down the street. It's like the corner of a car and a street sign. That worked.
Her husband's super honest, and he tells us like, oh my
Brutal.
God. Yeah, brutal. You do need brutal honesty in a friend is very helpful. Like, oh my God, you went too far. This is like ridiculous. Cut some of these words out. He'll tell her like, no. But then sometimes you can't. I think Mike has an insane amount of detail in his artwork. Like I feel like he intentionally goes over the top just to like one up himself. But it's never enough. And the work is so beautiful, and I love the details. So like, I don't know. You can find complication in simplicity, or simplicity in detail. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can get the beautiful forest. And it's so detailed, but it's the one thing. Or you can do what Ryan was saying, which is just, so I guess you kind of have to feel it. And as a creator, it's really nice to be able to imagine it. As the artist, hopefully you can, or work with a really good creator, find someone who can really see it in their head.
I will say deadline. A deadline will give you on how detailed you're gonna be or how
Except
simple
for Mike, who draws detail while he's sleeping.
It also depends on what you want the reader's experience to be. Like if it's a really interesting conversation that someone's having, maybe you want a lot of dialogue and you can just show them having the conversation. Or if you want them to get lost in some like enchanting setting or something, you make it very dialogue light and then just have loads of big visuals. So it's really what you want their experience to be. Also group test it with your friends. Like if they struggle to get through like a page of it because there's that much dialogue or that much text, then just start cutting down.
Give it to her husband.
Seriously. No, really, find an honest friend. That's what's amazing about having a good editor. They're supposed to tell you what they think. Okay.
So if you're in the market to hire an artist for your book, is there or what is like the current industry standard that you pay per page?
There isn't one.
Yeah.
There's
Depends on the artist.
Yeah, there's what people think an artist should make, there's what artists do make, there's what artists want to make, and there's what I call, how much are you willing to pay this artist to make sure he's working on your book? I've overpaid artists just because I want them to stay with me. Like,
Same.
I make this amount of money per page with this guy. Well, I'm gonna give you $100 more because I want you to stay with us, or I want you on our next issue. You have to kind of check out what your budget is, and will it work for you?
What about just like a loose idea, like ballpark?
So that also depends if you're the penciler, the inker, the colorist.
How about all three in one artist?
I know, so I don't know what the standard would be. I know groups of guys that they'll do the whole book for $300 a page. And I know books that are done and the thing is probably turns out to be like $600, $700 a page.
Or you have an artist that's so fancy, you just got a 50-50 your series with them. I'm teasing her, she had tons of ideas.
So
It actually was her
I don't
idea.
think there's a standard anymore.
No, there isn't.
There's what you're willing to pay and what as an artist, what you're willing to work for.
And also how good the artist is, and how much do you want to keep them, and how intrinsically important are they to your series. And I've found that some artists can be absolutely indispensable. So, well, both of them, really.
Yeah, but I get him every once in a while.
Sure.
I still can't catch this one.
Okay, I think we can do one more, and then we need to go on like a 45-minute walk back to our table. Yes, it was him. He's waiting very patiently, and I think I skipped him earlier.
How do you know that the story you're writing and building out is meant for a comic book and not another form of media?
Trial.
It's actually tough, yeah. It's
Trial
hard.
and error. Every new thing you're gonna do in this is trial and error. Is this gonna work? I think it looks like a comic. The audience is gonna tell you if it is or not. If it sells, it's working. If it does not, clearly that's not the right avenue. You do both. You go from novel to comic.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I have lots of novels. I also write like women's fiction and historical romance. So for those, I never envisioned them as a comic, like at all. They're, completely about Marie Antoinette's missing daughter. They have Romani lore and it's just nothing to do with comics. Also, they have like naughty scenes that may be naughtier than I would dare to draw, since it is, a romance novel in its core. But then, I don't know, like I'm writing a new book right now, which I'm not telling anyone about, which I'm clearly telling everybody about right now. But it was, it's an AI, it's very interesting. I've never attempted anything like this before. And I was only gonna write it as a novel, and now it has to be a comic series. So sometimes it can shift. I don't know how you know. That's a super good question. I guess you have to see it in your head. And you have to think like, this has to be a comic, and then you can start seeing the art style to it. That is definitely the end. That's like they're playing the sad music, and we all have to leave.
I know.
You guys are the best. Everybody quickly say where they are. Thank you. That was so fun. We're all in the same spot, like 1, 16, 17, and 18 or something.
Oh yeah, I'm
And
at
Ryan,
11:27.
please come see us. I have no books left to sell you, so.
We have some.
I have 5 sets left of my little books. First come, first serve. Please come see us, guys. That was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you.